for 2, episode 165, I believe. Just wrapping up the Rogers show, and the boys are just kind of getting their bearings here. As we kind of dive into this week, we had a lot of interesting things happen in college, a lot of interesting things going on in the NFL. Most interesting to me is the way that the college football playoff landscape shifted in, I'm going to call it 45 seconds. And what I mean by that is there was a point where during the Iron Bowl where Alabama was not on the ropes. They were at the 7 on the 8 count. And that thing went to, and I know you're kind of rolling your eyes thinking, like, what the hell? But that thing went to a Hail Mary. Absolutely no reason in the world on that thing being caught. But why that catch was so significant and why it matters so much is it keeps you guys in play.
Mm-hmm.
Because Alabama, even though you beat them, if they end up beating Georgia, they're in. They would jump you guys. So that was a big one. Obviously, Ohio State losing puts you in a better position, and knowing that Washington and Oregon are going to be playing each other this week.
Is Washington really a team, guys? Can we? I know that they're not. Were they 3 right now or 4?
They would be.
I think they're 3.
3.
Yeah, I know that they have not lost a game, but like, it's Washington. Do we actually think this team is going to come into anybody in the East, whether it be Big Ten, SEC, even the ACC, and make any noise against anybody?
I think Oregon beats them.
Yeah.
I think Oregon beats them and Oregon makes the playoff. Yeah,
100%.
Or Oregon makes it really difficult for the committee to say is a 1-loss Texas team and a 1-loss Oregon team, one winning the Big 12, one winning the Pac-12. Which one's more significant, and who do you put in? You know, you're wearing a Texas hat, so it's going to be difficult for you to answer that question.
Little bias. Oh, is Kelly on? I wanted to see if she saw that smoke show that the Sooners had. Did you guys see that with all the Sooners following through their entrance?
Yeah,
it was too smoky.
Coach Kaz knows that the Pittsburgh offense went for 400 yards. We're gonna get to that. Don't worry.
Easy, Kaz. All these tires being pumped about the Steelers today. But what were we saying about the college football and the landscape and everything? What was your question?
So, I don't know. All I know is that the Florida's got really spicy.
Yeah.
This weekend's
the 4 or Florida?
4.
Okay, 4.
Florida.
Yeah, keep going. I don't either way there, right?
But I think it's gonna be one of those things.
I need to share what you get back there.
Now what?
Me?
Like we have.
I shared it.
Okay.
Championship weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Winner of the Big 12 is right there. Winner of the SEC. I think whoever loses that game might get knocked out. Unless if Bama wins, does Georgia get knocked out?
See, this is the thing. Like Georgia's ridden that number 1 the whole year, right?
Yeah, but it's like how. To me, it's almost like, do we just roll with them? Or it has to almost be, how bad do they lose?
Wait, when I ask if Washington is even a team, I say that obviously condescendingly, right? They've obviously got enough, like a good enough team to win some games here. But we can honestly look at each other and say that Georgia from the top down is the most talented roster in all of college football, right?
Win or lose on Saturday, they're in.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that they are the most talented roster in football, for sure.
Yeah, like I'll give you that.
That's why I'm thinking, like a team like that, I think you would be doing a disservice to eliminate Georgia if they were to lose, because we know that any given day that team is probably going to win 9 out of 10 games against Alabama.
Now, are we
right now?
Is Florida State out now without Travis? Like, are they going to bump?
So, I don't think that they would do a bump based on the quality of play, because like Rodemaker, I think is Tate Rodemaker. He didn't play poorly. He got down by 12 points in the swamp and led the team back to win. So I think that he's got enough ability, and he's not like some scrub bum, right? Like this isn't in the NFL. If your starting quarterback gets hurt, you're kind of in trouble. In a place like Florida State, it means that your 6th-year senior's gone, and now your 5-star recruit is now in. So I don't have any issue with them whatsoever. And I think that if they're undefeated, they're in. I think that they're in tough against Louisville because the Louisville team is good. It's pretty interesting to think, and I was trying to think back in previous years, how many spots would be up for grabs this late in the season going into championship week? Because if Michigan loses, they're not making it, and then in that case, you would be looking at potentially no Big Ten team in. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Michigan team's going to win. Georgia's in, so if Georgia and Michigan are in, we're really looking at filling 2 spots. So it's either Washington, Oregon, Texas, or Florida State, right? So
Kelly's
one of
on.
those teams has to do something convincing
Kelly's on.
enough to make a move, and I don't really know what that means for Texas. I think that the committee would want Texas in.
And I'll be biased when I say that I think that the reason they would get in is because of the committee. Again, doing a disservice to the NCAA as a whole, to championships as a whole. You would have to have a team in. Like I know Florida State's got a history, but it's still Florida freaking State, right?
Right.
And I still come back to Washington. Come on.
Well, if you're gonna put in a Big 12 team or an ACC team, you're putting in a Big 12. Just for TV purposes.
Yeah, and well, it's because of the Texas brand that would be carried with it, and like if Texas is in, they would not be ranked anything higher than 4. So if we expect Georgia to be 1, they're going to put Texas and Georgia together. I could see that. You put Oregon and Michigan together, and you probably got some pretty highly watched games. Florida State obviously carries the name brand recognition too, so can somebody do enough to get over Florida State? And like Florida State would have to lose to Louisville, which it's definitely possible. I mean, Louisville, when the Vikings come out tomorrow, I think Louisville's going to be the 8th team. So they are playing for their opportunity for a New Year's Six game, which is huge for that program.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I don't think, and this being the last year of the 14 playoff, I can't recall a time where almost all 4. And I guess there's 5 of them, but all 4 major conferences actually matter.
Can we just talk about the biggest game of the weekend, though?
Yeah.
Michigan, and this pains me to fucking say this, they did Ohio State dirty. They beat them up. I don't know how Ryan Day can have a job. And I understand he's probably won more games than most schools could ever hope for in the last 3 years.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter if you can't beat Michigan. It's that simple. You're gonna you didn't win the Big Ten the last 2 years now, and you've lost 3 straight to Michigan. There's no way that guy has a job, right?
I wouldn't. I would think if they were going to do that, they would have already done it, unless they have some kind of splash hire that they're trying to make, and they're trying to get their room in a row first for recruiting purposes. Because the Ryan Day to Texas A&M rumor is obviously gone now, because they've already got Mike Elko went from Duke to Texas A&M. So
after they tried they were going to do the whole Kentucky coach.
Yeah.
And I think the funniest thing that a tweet that I saw was that A&M went and spent $78 million to fire their coaches to hire a coach by a Twitter poll. Like, I have no idea who these guys were they thought they were going to bring in to take over A&M. Like, you guys know that I make fun of A&M, but this is a team that's full of boosters that is trying to get to the next level. And you go after Kentucky's coach first, and then you go after, what's his name?
Mike Elko.
Yeah, just not going to make any noise with
So
it.
he's got a little bit of connection there as a Texas football high school coach, or Texas high school. But because of that, they might be thinking, why do we continue to have recruits that are going to other places, like in state? And if you were a Texas recruit, like an in-state, you're in the state of Texas, and you're a high-ranking player or a player of any caliber, I guess. Like, it's probably Texas
now,
and then like Baylor, TCU, maybe Houston, and then Texas A&M. Like, would they be the 5th best option?
Listen, you know what's weird is I ran into a guy in November. I was out of town in Niagara at a work conference, and I ran into a guy. I wear my Texas hat, of course. And he's like, Longhorns fan. I'm like, yeah, because I heard his accent. I'm like, you Longhorns fan too? Please say you are. Not an Aggie, right? He's like, no, I'm Texas Tech. And I get talking with him.
Texas Tech.
And Texas Tech has got such a deep pipeline through Texas that you basically, I say this lovingly, they get the cast-offs that don't go to Texas. They'll lovingly go to Texas Tech. It's right down the road from them. So it's no problem to live an extra hour this way from their family to go to Tech, right?
Texas is now, they've rebuilt themselves. And like we rip on you all the time. Just because it's fun.
Yeah.
But like and I said that, I don't know if you were here, but I said there's certain teams that college football needs. Texas is one of them. Texas needs to be a top team, and it makes college football better.
Mhm.
That being said, if you guys are getting the top recruits in state, if the trickle down is there, you're both in the SEC, you and Texas A&M. Do I want to go play for the 10th or 11th team in the SEC and get washed every week? No, I don't. Johnny Manziel's been gone for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make that very clear.
Oh yeah.
And Texas A&M is still living off of that.
They had a spurge of Kellen Mond, which was
Yeah,
great, right?
Yeah. But like that wasn't a 10-win team.
No.
And here we are laughing about like teams getting upset because like they've won 10 games and that's it.
Yeah.
But as far as like recruiting purposes go, like A&M's got nothing. There's nothing there that they can do. And we laughed about Texas's first year schedule. Like that's tough, yes, but at the same time, like A&M's got no different schedule. It's all the same shit.
Yeah.
Right.
And at least Texas has the dogs to fight them.
Yep.
Well, yeah, exactly, and like the recruiting thing is huge, especially this time.
Just because you mentioned recruiting, we've talked heavily about heavily about
There you go.
Ohio State. You guys have mocked their quarterback all year long. He didn't have a horrible game against Michigan, but it certainly was a reason why they lost.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a good quarterback that's in your pool and their wide receivers aren't getting any better, they're going to have one that he hasn't said whether or not he's going to leave yet, but it's pretty realistic that Marvin Harrison's not going to be there next year. Offensive line is going to get weaker through this draft as well. Where does Ohio State go from here? Because you got bullied 3 years in a row by Michigan. You're going to start losing now to in-division or in-conference recruits to other teams because you just clearly can't do it, right? When does Ohio State start to fall on the other side? Because I haven't heard anything great about, and the quarterback's been recruited there over the next few years. Any 5-star recruits going to Ohio State? We haven't heard that. So again, if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to go very far. Ask Alabama, right?
Yeah. Well, and when it comes down to
Jalen Monroe's been playing pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he got it together.
They let him play. They finally let him play. I think that was the problem. They were trying to put him inside of a box, but now they let him do that.
Yeah,
right?
and it's smart. Like that's coaching. Like the coaches got him back organized. Like he was obviously always going to be that player, but the coaches are letting him be the player that he wants to be, and ultimately, that's what you should do. Like you shouldn't dictate somebody's play based on how it makes you feel. You should do the play that the guy actually wants to run, and we're going to get into that a little bit more on the NFL side. But when we look at recruiting and we look at coaches, now is the time. And this answers your question. This is the time where guys are jumping into the portal. So if you're jumping into the portal, then there's going to be some good players out there. Michigan State's quarterback, 4-star redshirt freshman, just entered the portal. I didn't think that he was awful. All it told me is that he's not up for the competition because this guy that they brought in from Oregon State has a 4-star freshman that he's going to bring with him, as well as there was a true freshman on roster, Sam Levitt, that actually pushed Hauser into some of the plays, and like they kind of split play some of the along the way there. So I don't know if Hauser's just not ready to play a pro style offense and he wants to go play something like Ohio State or play somewhere different, but there's going to be a lot of those guys out there. And think of the guys that are going to lose their jobs in the spring, and that's when the Ohio States are going to pounce on it.
So the reason I mentioned it, and because somebody had floated this idea a couple of weeks ago, and I really don't think he'd ever leave Dad, but
yeah, no chance.
Could Shadur Sanders make a transfer to Ohio State?
No.
Why not? This is a guy who went on a 4-7 team. If he wasn't on a 4-7 team, he'd be talked about as a Heisman candidate right now.
You realize that team next year is going to win 8 games, right?
I don't think that because they've already lost 4-star or higher recruits to the transfer portal because they couldn't win any games this season. And they weren't even close. Like, it wasn't even like they lost by a couple of scores. They got absolutely dominated. It wasn't just on one side with the offensive line, you replace a few guys and you get better. Defense looked like trash that second half of the season, too. And that's where I'm going. Dion, do you do your kid the disservice about keeping him around and keep on your squad because you want him home and you want him on your team? Or does this kid go to Ohio State and become a Heisman candidate with their overnight?
He'll be a Heisman candidate next year.
Yeah, he can be that. They're going to have good players back. It seems like the
They're
transfer
gonna
portal
fill their
is hit
holes.
When was
next
the
year.
last time that a sub 500 team had a Heisman candidate?
I'm
But
telling you,
it
they
won't
should
happen.
win 8 games.
Like
What did you say they were going to win this year? 7?
I said 6.
he did. Yeah, I mean,
I said
We-
they'd be bowl eligible, and I was wrong.
we said 3, so we met in the middle at 4.
I said they win 6 games. That was
Yeah.
my guess.
You were far more optimistic and realistic with what they should have been able to do. And at the end of the day, they probably should have won 6 games. They let a couple slip away. Once the hoopla got off of them, those guys were kind of done with it, right?
I don't even know. Like some of those games, man, they were not even remotely close. Like it didn't even look like they were watching those first 3 games of the season. Especially that first game of the season was a totally different team than we saw 5 minutes later. Now, mind you, your boy that played both sides, Henry, or was it Henry or Hunter? Hunter, sorry. He certainly looks like he kind of plateaued there mid-season. It didn't seem to get to that next level that we saw.
I
I
think
think
guys built for 300 snaps a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like I said, that team's going to get better. I think win 8 games. I do. I truthfully do. There's no one left in the Big 12.
Well, that's the thing. They're going to a weaker conference
So-
with weaker teams.
But so
Yeah,
that's
like
what I
the
mean. How
Pac-12
does this guy get a Heisman candidacy if he's in an absolutely decimated conference, right?
It doesn't matter.
Because, well, the thing is, like, the Big 12 still carries the name of the Big 12. So if you score a lot of points and win that conference, you have a great offense.
It's like
It
13
doesn't-
more months it will.
Well,
It won't be the. We're all going to sit here and make fun of the Big 12 like you do the Pac 12. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it's going to become, right?
well,
And
the Pac 12 is the Pac 2, so it's way different.
Stop.
Way different.
Stop.
You can't even call it the Pac-12 anymore.
It's ridiculous. This guy, I think this guy is a prime candidate to go somewhere else and do something better and make that name. Right now, he wouldn't be a first round pick, right? He wouldn't be.
Well,
You put him on an Ohio team,
I
he's
don't think
22
he
and
was-
7 with his touchdown interception he did this year. He'd probably be a first round pick
I don't
this year.
think he was a first-round pick the day he stepped on the field. We had this conversation 14 weeks ago. He's not a first-round pick. The reason he's going back to college next year is because he's on a first-round pick.
yeah. And
There's more than enough people around that kid that's giving him the right advice.
Well, but also think who is going to be in the draft next year. Like, can you guys think of the quarterbacks next year? It's Quinn Ewers and Shadur Sanders. I can't really think of other quarterbacks or other juniors.
is Quinn Ewers not
He'll
going
be
out this year?
no, he will not after that season. What's he going to be, a 5th round quarterback?
So let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do then?
So, and that I will put money right now that Arch won't leave. Arch will stick around. He'll do the extra year. I think some people said some heat about how Malik Murphy got started this year over top of Arch. I think that is just protecting your
That's
investment.
redshirt reason, right?
Yeah. You're protecting your investment. And Malik was a redshirt freshman. He earned the right to play at this point, right? But Quinn had a down season statistically and was hurt as well. I think it serves him right to come back for another year. Do what you can do in the SEC, and then maybe you become that second round pick.
This isn't me. I'm not shaming Texas. This you have a problem with too many quarterbacks.
Now we do. It's crazy.
Like it's never a problem. It's never been a problem.
Trade one for a first round pick.
Yeah. If Art says, I want to play or I'm going to leave, what do you do? And I don't want to say the inmates cannot run the asylum. I'm
Yeah.
a big believer in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is a different level talent than what we've ever experienced in the last few years.
So
And you know, when Trevor Lawrence came in and all that stuff, there wasn't the hype that there was for Arch Barry. And Trevor Lawrence was probably up to that date the biggest recruit of all time.
So here's what I look at it as, and it's the Manning family doesn't need money. I know he's not from the family that has money right now, but the other
Coop's
two
doing
are.
all right.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Coop's not hurt.
He's not hurt by any means. But I think that there's 2 things here. Again, he doesn't need the money, and all he wants to do is get better. So his name will, if he's with Sarkisian, he's going to be under a quarterback group, which is fantastic. But his name is going to get him drafted. Whether that's in the 1st round or the 3rd round, he's going to get drafted because of that name. The difference is going to be the dollars, but again, we come back to they don't need the dollars right now. It's
Right.
about getting the best tutelage you possibly can to get yourself to the next level, right? And I think that there's 2 plate people specifically in the Texas organization. Sarkisian is one of them, and there's another guy there, I believe, the quarterback coach, who was incredibly close with Arch's dad and Cooper. So I think that holds the continuity of the fleet. I think that's what it does. But
So you do believe in it. But you understand what I'm saying.
I totally see what you're saying.
Arch doesn't need to play 3 years to be a first round pick.
That's exactly. He's going to get drafted on his name alone. He could have 1 year. He could play 6 games in a season, and if he puts up 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, he's still going to be talked about as that first round or second round because the combine does wonders for everybody.
Yeah.
That's Zach Wilson, right? So
Yeah, that's a different story.
Well, hey, the pro days. I can remember the one throw I saw the other day on Twitter where he was running crossbody, running left, throwing right.
Oh, I know everybody got in love with it.
Everybody fell in love with that throw, but that's exactly what
I've
happened.
been wrong about a lot of quarterbacks in the first minute. I was pretty fucking right on Zach Wilson. I just want to say that. I admit my defeats. I was wrong on Justin Herbert. I didn't think he was gonna be that good.
Sunshine, especially after
He's
his
been
haircut.
pretty good.
We watched him play in an Oregon bowl game. We were like, "How is this guy gonna be a first round pick?" Yeah, he showed us. He's a first round pick.
Mhm.
And on that point, we're not taking. No one is taking Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the first round, and I've never said take him out of the first round. But from watching a lot of the games this year and from paying attention to not only his play because he disappears,
Don't you do it. What are you about to say right now?
he disappears.
What are you following this up with?
I'm going to tell you the two receivers that you should draft ahead of him.
Okay.
And that is Malik Neighbors from LSU and
Okay.
Keon Coleman from Florida State. Both of those guys are going to be superior athletes.
Is there an Njagba? Not in Njagba. I don't know the last, but there's like a Nax Jabba or something like that. I can't remember. He runs just like AJ Brown. He might be from South Carolina, maybe.
Oh, I haven't seen him. I thought you were talking about the other guy from Ohio State. But what that means is not that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a bad pro, but it means that he has a lot of maturing to do. He disappears when he knows he's not the primary receiver, and he basically gets thrown open. And he's fast enough to get thrown open. And he's obviously a tremendous talent, but if you want to actually draft a receiver to get your team hyped and get your team ready to the next level, it'd be stupid to not look at the guy at LSU. There's quite a few good receivers that have come out of LSU recently, and if you look at Neighbors, he basically like the play that he has and his running mate down there are going to get Jaden Daniels the Heisman. So I'm going to say that Jaden Daniels is the Heisman right now to me.
They put up his stats I saw it today, and they're actually on par with Joe Burrow's.
Disgusting, yeah.
Also, this is very rare for me to say. We get to go talk about NFL. We haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah. Let's go to the NFL. All right. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the biggest game yesterday, and that's the Eagles and the Bills. And we're not going to break down the game because who gives a shit. But are the Bills toast? And I got some teams that I'm going to rhyme off here in a second. And out of all of these teams, the Bills are 10th in the AFC right now. 10th. So they need to climb over the Steelers, the Browns, the Colts, the Broncos, and the Texans with the hardest schedule remaining in the AFC.
I think the biggest thing about that is it's not the teams they have to beat; it's the number of teams they'll have to leapfrog.
And I'm quite certain that they have to go to Miami in December, which to me is the equivalent to going to Buffalo in December. But you're used to being freezing cold. There's no way you can get your body to go from minus X to 95 degrees and not pull a hamstring or not cramp up. I think that they're toast. It was tough way to lose yesterday. I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Now, Philly fans, we've talked about it earlier. They're not the. I think Liam was saying like the worst fans rated or whatever. Like Philly fans, right?
Yeah, most annoying fan base.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you saw it or not.
I'm gonna listen to your rant while I drink my cold Miller.
Your Miller Lite, lovely. I don't know if you saw yesterday or not, but there was a couple of defensive linemen that got up in a Philly fan's face on the sidelines. He was chirping them. Now, where you begin to lose a
Come
lot.
on, Mitch. That's not nice.
What do you say?
It's on a hard climb over the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree with you. But
the top wild card team. But keep going.
So when you lose the locker room is when they are totally distracted by the game at hand. They're not